From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazan. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on the Apple Podcast. You can find us on Google. You can find us wherever you listen to and now watch your podcast. Sean Fazan, how are you today, man?
Doing great. We had a great response from our last podcast via our YouTube page, and audio was one of our most downloaded and one of our most viewed videos breaking down the Saints draft class. We certainly appreciate you guys coming to us for some Saints content, Saints analysis, and just keeping up everything that's happening with the black and gold. Also, if you want to submit a question, do so using the Final Word feature on the Final Play app. And remember to like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so today, a new week. Happy Monday. Hope it was a great weekend. Last week was a little bit of a down week just for everyone kind of regrouping after the draft. That's a huge endeavor for the New Orleans Saints, and as a matter of fact, I think a few of those guys even had some days off because it's such a massive endeavor that they were able to get some time off after that. You put so much energy into it. Now you kind of turn the page a little bit. Now you have who you have. You've done your draft class. You've done your undrafted free agents. You've done your veteran free agents. And then I thought it would be a good time as we look ahead to, I guess, rookie minicamp is this weekend, just where the Saints stand. And, I do this exercise from time to time, periodically throughout the year, and if you're really a Saints kind of nut or a football nut, or whatever team you go, you kind of follow or track, and I know we cover the team, so it's a little more, it's helpful for my work, but if you just do it for fun, I just sit back and I literally just write out the Saints depth chart. And when you do that, I promise you, it just sort of it sharpens things. It puts things a little more into focus about where this team currently stands, where the needs are, right. And it just kind of gets it kind of allows you to get organized a little bit after a lot of hypotheticals and a lot of this and a lot of that, a lot of grading, a lot of regrading. Like, hey, this guy could do this, guy could do that. But when you put it all in the puzzle together, I think it does. At least for me, it kind of lines things up a little bit. So I took a stab at the Saints starting 22 players, and it just kind of gives you a picture of where the strengths are, where there could be some room for movement in terms of who the players I have penciled in to start. I guess this is a pen, but nonetheless, you get my point. Who are there maybe that I initially have as starters, but could be, a potential competition. Also allows to see what's behind those starters, potential depth pieces. I'm not going to go through every single position with every single player, but I do think it's noteworthy just to see where the Saints stand and just as a group in certain positions how they match up and measure up. I've been going piece by piece on Fox 8 News at 5 every day since last Thursday, breaking down each room. So if you're listening to this, depending on what time, you may have seen the Saints wide receiver room breakdown at Fox 8 News at 5 during the sportscast today. But this is kind of all putting it all together. So, Sil, I'm going to just start here, offense and then defense. And as we go through each name, we'll see which one's obvious and which ones aren't, and then we can kind of get a feel for where the Saints team stands. We'll start at the top, a quarterback. There is no doubt it's Derek Carr. We know that he's brought here on a big money contract, barring some, epic collapse. Barring some epic collapse, which no one foresees happening, he is going to be the starting quarterback through and this is very important, through the process of figuring it out. So even if it doesn't look great to start and maybe it's a little uneven and maybe you'll hear some rumblings of it's not working, they're going to work this thing all the way through.
Right.
And obviously you have Jameis, you have Jake Haener, the rookie, and then you have obviously the best quote-unquote third-string quarterback in the NFL, or fourth-string, or whatever you want to put it, in Taysom Hill, because if everything went to you-know-what, and you had to turn to someone, there's always old number 7. Okay, let's move on to the running back position. RB1 is obviously Alvin Kamara. We know the situation involved with Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
He He's got a lot of tread on the tires over the last couple of years because of the amount of carries he's had to carry the load. So that's, and for a small-ish back, a back that was best utilized where he wasn't getting, an insane amount of carries. It was more of a versatile type guy.
Yeah.
That's something to certainly watch, not to mention the fact that the suspension could be coming. Mm-hmm. You have Jamal Williams and you have Kendre Miller, Benjamin, Sardaric Thompson from TCU, and then you have Prentice, your fullback. So I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
then we get to, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, with the running backs, you should still feel pretty comfortable if Kamara is not around between Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller, right?
I feel comfortable when it comes to purely running the football. Now, I think it takes a hit when it comes to catching the football, which I think is going to be a big part of the Saints offense. It always has been. When the Saints offense has been at its best, it has had a significant, one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL on their roster. Kamara can be that guy, but if he is not available, I do think that is something to be somewhat concerned with. So let's move on to wide receiver because this is a wild card group, in my opinion. You have wide receiver 1, Michael Thomas. We know that.
Yep.
Okay. If you have any confidence that Michael Thomas is going to be healthy the rest of the season, God bless you. Until it happens, there's just nothing else to go on.
Love the optimism.
That's great optimism, but the truth is he's been off the field a lot longer than he has been on the field. And one thing we're not going to do here, we're not going to overreact to off-season workout videos. No. It's not happening. I see people do it all the time. Not happening. They're the most insignificant, meaningless things that people love to get excited over because it's a little bit of football, a little bit of this, a little information, so it's fun to react on social media, but I am not jumping to any conclusions based off of any workout videos whatsoever. So Michael Thomas, they said, into training camp is something to really watch if he's going to be available. So to me, I don't think he's going to be available for the offseason workouts. That's something to watch. Wide receiver 2, obviously going to be Chris Olave, who needed to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit better with the run after the catch. So we'll see if he's able to do that. And wide receiver 3 is Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's
your Rashid Shaheed, who ain't catching anybody off guard this year, but I think he's certainly shown he is more than just a 9-route punt returner type, a guy that gets deep or a guy that's explosive in the punt return game. He can do a little bit of everything at all 3 levels of the field.
Solid route running.
Yeah, he is. Behind them, you drafted A.T. Perry. Okay? I've said before, I think that's a guy that could be the steal of the draft. But he's got to show it. He's got to show it quickly. And the Saints have never been shy about if they've got to cut a late-round pick, they'll do it, especially in the 6th or 7th round. That has happened before. So I think he's on the team, but I do think he has to show it. And you have Brian Edwards, who's the exact same dimensions as he and Michael Thomas. And Traquan Smith's still there, Kerith Wood, Merritt. And then a couple of undrafted guys, Barnett, and obviously Malik, the name escapes me, Malik.
Flowers,
there you go. So, your confidence level, could you add a veteran there? Maybe.
It's possible.
I just think that's a wild card group because I think if it all comes together, that could be an explosive group. But I do think there's some legitimate questions. So that's something to watch. Tight end. All right, you have Juwan Johnson. You have Taysom. You have Lucas Kroll. You have Miller Forstall. And you have the undrafted rookie Wilson out of
Joel Wilson. Yeah.
Joel Wilson out of Central Michigan. We've already acknowledged that this is probably one of the bigger positions of need. This is one of those ones when I wrote it out, on the surface, it looks like a huge need, but I don't think it's as big a need as the one I'm going to get to when we get to the defense. But they need to add someone here. They're going to have to add someone here. So tight end, I know they like Lucas Kroll. Taysom's always the joker, the jack of all trades, and Johnson, certainly Johnson. But I think there's some room for, improvement there, or some room for they need to add something there, and it probably will have to be someone in the neighborhood of a stylistically, I don't know. Do you need a downfield pass catcher type? Do you need a more of a blocker type? That's something to really watch going forward. Now I'm going to go straight through the offensive line. This is how I penciled in the offensive line. Right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk. Right guard, Cesar Ruiz. Center, Eric McCoy. Left guard, Andrus Peat. Left tackle, I'm putting in Trevor Penning because I think that's the hope. That is the hope. But if you can see right here, I don't know if you can tell. That's highlighted. There's 3 positions highlighted on the offensive line. Ruiz.
Yeah, I wrote it out the exact same way you did, and that's before you even said it, so that's kind of what I figured you were going to say.
Ruiz, Pete, and Penning. I think they're penciled in, but I don't think they're slam dunks. I think they could both be replaced and or get beaten out, or let's say in Penning's case, he's not fully healthy and he's just not there yet, and James Hurst comes in. In Ruiz's case, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. I don't know how much confidence they have in him. They drafted Nick Saldiveri. They still have Calvin Throckmorton. Andrus Peat is a guy, I think this is going to be his last year here, an older guy. He's been injury-prone. I think that's ripe for, if a young guy pushes him, that could certainly be something to watch where he could get pushed out of a starting position. But for now, we're going to stick with Andrus Peat and Ruiz at your guard position. Then the left tackle is a toss-up. It's probably going to be the bet once again, the highest or one of the most competitive position battles of camp. Hurst versus Penning. Last year was obvious. It was Hurst, and then Penning got hurt. But Penning got a little bit better, got hurt again. So we'll see. I think that's totally up in the air, and they've got some decent depth behind there. When you talk about Throckmorton, Hurst, Landon Young, they drafted Saldiveri. So they've got some guys. Evans, the undrafted guy. They undrafted a guy for center, which I think is important as well. Because McCoy, Pilstrom.
Okay.
And then they, so there's some guys there. Lewis Kidd, Storm Norton, Coda Martin, Durant. So they've got some numbers there. But I do think, while the depth, I like the quality depth. I really do. I think front line wise, I'll be very curious to see how it eventually plays itself out. And remember, this is where injuries happen the most.
Right.
Okay. Fullback, obviously, I have Adam Prentice, the only one on the roster. So there, to me, is your starting offense: Carr, Kamara, Thomas, Olave, Shaheed, Johnson, Ram, Ruiz, McCoy, Pete, Penning, and then I have in parentheses Prentice when they do their fullback scenario. So I think that's got potential when you throw in Taysom, not technically a starter, but he's going to be on the field a lot. I think that has the potential of being a fantastic offense. But it's a lot of,
or at least a much improved offense from what we've seen the last
but it's a
couple
lot
of
of,
years.
it's got to come together. The question is, how quickly does it come together with Derek Carr? Oh, by the way, new quarterback means there could be a new playmaker emerge that we're not even looking at right now.
Yeah.
Who knows who he develops chemistry with first? I mean, we think it might be Michael Thomas, but
Dude, Brian Edwards could have a big season because he's familiar with Brian Edwards.
What if it's Perry? What if it's a tight end we're not even thinking about right now? Something to think about. Let's turn the page to defense. All right, let's go D-line. Okay, this is difficult because other than Cam Jordan, I'm not sure you can put a guarantee at starter at any position.
Yeah.
You got Cam Jordan. And then D tackles, I put Shepard and Saunders in there, but like I've told you and I preached on this podcast the last time, I think Brzee is in the mix, and if Brzee shows out, he will start.
Yeah.
But for now, I put Shepard, Saunders, and then the opposite defensive end. So I have Carl Granderson penciled in right now because by the end of last year, it was him over Turner and Davenport that was getting the majority of the snaps. And you know what? He earned it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Carl Granderson has just been that one guy that's kind of just consistency.
And he's gotten better. I remember when they got him as an undrafted free agent. I mean, he has gotten better. Behind him, you have Peyton Turner. You have Isaiah Foskey.
Yep.
See, that is probably going to be the most fun position to watch because on any given day, any one of those guys could shine.
Right.
And I think that's where the coaches are going to have to really, really trust what they see and figure out who's there. Look, in Peyton Turner's case, if it doesn't turn on now, I mean, he makes the roster because they're thin on numbers, but man, what a disappointment that would be if he still can't crack the starting lineup. This is your chance, man. But I guess we'll now find out. Linebacker. I have linebacker 1, linebacker 2. I'm doing this with the assumption of nickel defense. So,
Sure.
This is my biggest concern, linebacker. Because you have Davis, you have Werner. I love the front line. That could be as good of a duo at linebacker in the entire NFL. Love it. However, behind them, I don't. DeMarco Jackson, Zach Bond,
Yeah.
Or the two names I've penciled in. You have Anthony Orgy, the guy they gave a lot of guaranteed money to, the undrafted free agent. Nick Anderson, Sewell, Summers, Dowell, and Conley. That is a whew. Okay. I like Werner a lot. I thought he was, at one point in the season last year, I thought he was the best Saints player on the field, regardless of position. That's how good he was playing. But he's been hurt. So you got to be prepared for someone to step in. Is it Bond? Is it Jackson? Is there another linebacker out there? Debo Jones is still available, at least at the time of this podcast. Quan Alexander. Rashaan Evans was a guy that was out there. So I think they add a little life, add some veteran blood to the linebacker room and that tight end room. So that, to me, remains my biggest concern. Yeah. Over tight end, because I think you can mask the tight end situation a little bit with different wide receiver sets, bigger receivers. There are things you can do to help insulate a lack of tight end production. I just don't think you can do that at the linebacker position. All right, let's go to the secondary. All right, so cornerback, the two outside corners in nickel, Lattimore, Adebo,
and Alontae Taylor.
Roby.
Oh, Roby.
Okay.
Hey.
Now, you just mentioned his name, Alontae Taylor. This is going to be interesting. This is a great problem for the Saints to have. Alontae Taylor, they said could play inside, but I think he's more comfortable on the outside.
100%.
Okay. So you got to get that guy on the field some kind of way. How does he get on the field? Can he upend Adebo?
That's what I was just
opposite
about to ask
Lattimore.
you. I was just about to ask you that.
Can he upend Adebo opposite of Lattimore? I think that's something to watch.
I think the fact that he now Adebo is a physical corner, but Alontae Taylor is equally as physical, if not more so. We saw he excels in run support. That game against the Raiders last year, he was in the backfield quite a bunch. I remember seeing all that film. So I mean, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Alontae Taylor maybe, even if it's not an exact, even if it doesn't overtake, maybe he'll push Adebo for like a 50-50 split of snaps.
Or, look, Roby's a veteran. Or maybe maybe they have this full vision of, I'm going to put Taylor on the inside. My starting secondary is going to be Lattimore, Adebo, Taylor. We're getting those guys on the field.
Yeah.
If that's the case, so be it. Good. That problem solved. But right now, I don't know if that's indeed the case. You have Lonnie Johnson. You have Pry. You have a couple guys that you signed. I like the numbers at corner. Like any position, if you get a guy injured, you could maybe get in a little bit of trouble. But that's just the nature of the NFL. But I do like where you stand, because if any of the top three get injured, the next one up is either going to be Taylor or Roby or Adebo, whoever that may be. So I think you're in a good spot. We saw Lattimore last year when he was out versus when he was in, how much better they were. He is still the top cornerback on his team, regardless of who you think may or may not be better. Is Marshawn Lattimore. Okay, secondary, the safety position. Starters are Marcus May, Tyrann Mathieu. Behind him, you have Jonathan Abram. You have Smoke Monday, Hugo Amade.
Great name.
JT Gray. And there are a couple of guys listed on the Saints roster as DBs. I'm sure I'm forgetting. That's at 6 total.
PJ Williams isn't still on the roster.
He's not on the roster, and I from discussions I've had, I don't think he's coming back.
Oof.
So that's maybe this. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot Howden, the draft pick. He may get on the field. Yeah. He may be getting on the field, because that's a position group where maybe a little thin, and sometimes at safety, if some of those guys are just guaranteed special teams guys and not necessarily every down defenders. So that's something to watch going forward.
I mean, he was listed as a DB as well. So I mean, he's versatile, and we know how much the Saints value that.
Yeah, he's got some versatility. That's certainly a good thing. So that's it. Your starting defense, at least the way I have it right here.
Yep.
Jordan, Shepard, Saunders, Granderson, Davis, Werner, Lattimore, Adebo, Roby, May, Mathieu, and the Sam linebacker is going to be Zach Bond. Whenever that. Yeah. Now they get on the field quite a bit when they do their. Sometimes they'll do a 3-3-5 look. Sometimes they'll do a situation where they put a guy like that on the field. So a strong side, a Sam linebacker. So again, on the surface, if you look at 1 through 22 there, just laid it all out, the starting offense, at least right now, the starting defense, when you could stack that up against other teams, again, this is on paper, literally, I think the Saints look pretty good in the NFC South. But it's a lot of guesswork because there are some significant new faces at significant places when you talk about quarterback. You talk about a lot of change at defensive tackle. You're counting on somewhat of an unknown to step up at defensive end. You're counting on, left tackles in this situation. But I still think you kind of got your bases covered there when you have Hurst. So I do think there's the opportunity to get better and improve from where they were a season ago, especially against the run. They were, number 2, number 3 pass defense.
Yeah.
I do think that's potentially better, and I think they address some depth. But, again, that depth has to come together.
Yeah.
And go from unproven depth to obviously proven depth. I want to get to a couple questions here. We got 2 that I wanted to get to. Final word feature is...
I think you got to close the app and reopen it.
Let's see. We have from... Why is this not coming up?
You got to close the app and reopen it.
Is this happening?
No, like when I'm how you can open up all the pages, you can slide up and you actually close the app. Close the mail app, rather.
Okay. All right. Well,
I can pull it up on mine.
Just pull it up because mine's still.
I have access to that too. I just remembered. No, but while I open that up, I mean, when we did this exercise a couple months ago or a little while ago before free agency started and everything like that, because I know we looked at the Saints depth chart. I mean, looking at it now, you could definitely tell there's been some improvements and everything like that. So it's nice to see that they're trending in the right direction. And you mentioned it is on paper, literally. So we won't know until they hit the field.
I think it's just important to sometimes you just sound it out and write it out, and it just puts the picture in place a little bit better than just kind of hearing names being thrown out there. I mean, you kind of visualize where it could all go and just see all the names up there on the board, or in this case, on this piece of paper. So do you have the question? I
do have the question. It's from Brian. And with the Saints still needing a tight end, could they get one or two from the USFL or the XFL?
I mean, they'll look. The names for tight end, you have Brait, Swain, Shaheen, Jesse James, Tyler Croft. Those are names that last time I checked at the time of this podcast, looked like they were still available. They'll look, but, man, I got to tell you, that the level of play in that XFL and USFL, man, the gap between NFL and USFL, XFL is really, really widened, and that's with the Breakers doing outstanding right now, 4-0. There was a time, I mean, I remember talking to the Cajun Cannon about this, Bob Yeaber, a few years ago with training camp. He goes, there was a time when USFL first came around in the 80s where they had some big names, and he said the front line of the USFL was as good as the front line of the NFL. The NFL just had a little more depth. That is no longer the case.
No.
That is no longer the case. But look, if there's someone available, if there's someone decent that's available in the XFL, I'm sure they will take a look at it. But my guess is they would probably check the veteran NFL free agent market first. Brait, Swain, Shaheen, as I said, Jesse James. And I do think it's interesting stylistically which way they go. It's important to point out, you're not going to get a superstar at this late. I mean, maybe a guy that fits in nicely and maybe he contributes a little more than you thought, but I don't think you're getting a superstar this late. So I think it's a decent. I have another question here, and it's again about the tight end position. I gotta. This is just a straight email to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and just address this here because
go for it.
Went out of his way to email me. This is from Chip Daigle. He says, "I see one huge problem: no blocking tight end." And then they made the matter worse by trading Jawan Johnson. You're right, he's not a blocking tight end.
No.
He's a good blocking wide receiver. I say let him play behind Mike Thomas at X. As far as fullback, I think Taysom should be our fullback and our short yardage big tailback, which is basically what he is. Why not have Alvin and Taysom in the game together, going in opposite directions in a misdirection scheme like Auburn? Okay, a lot there. Decent question, decent points there.
Lots to unpack, yeah.
It's true. That's the one deal they made where they felt like losing Troutman, even as inconsistent as he was. I thought he had improved as a blocker, and if you really, especially the Taysom grouping, he was on the field. I thought he probably didn't get the credit he deserved as a blocker there. He was a little inconsistent at times, though. Catching the ball, I don't know if it was a vision thing. I don't know if it was a concentration thing. He struggled with drops. Juwan Johnson, it's true. He's not the blocker those guys are. He has converted to making himself into an adequate enough blocker to get him on the field in certain situations where you're not tipping run or pass when he's on the field. But make no mistake about it, that's not his natural forte in the box blocking. So I agree. I do think blocking tight end is an area where they could certainly address, and I obviously already mentioned some names. As far as Mike Thomas and Juwan Johnson, I think the move is already permanent. I think Juwan Johnson is staying at tight end. I think you have a guy like A.T. Perry. You have a guy like Brian Edwards, like I said before. Size-wise, very similar to Michael Thomas. I think that would be the direction they go. Taysom Hill, look, he's lined up at fullback before, but he is not going to be in an I formation as a fullback. It's not happening. It's not happening. He's done that before, and if you recall, it was against, I think it was the Cardinals back in 19. He ran kind of a backside wheel and popped open beautifully. As for him and Alvin being on the field at the same time, I'm assuming you mean when he's not the quarterback, Derek Carr is the quarterback, and have Alvin and Taysom in the backfield at the same time. I'd have to go back and check the film.
That's some like triple option stuff right there.
That's had to have happened before. Maybe it hasn't, but that could certainly be weaved in, especially with their dynamic abilities. But you're right. He is the short yardage tailback. You saw it last year. I think he carried the team a lot, the offense a lot of times throughout last year. In fact, Kamara and Taysom, I do that ranking the Saints every year, the top 20 Saints. They're going to be high up there this year, both those guys, just because I thought at times they carried them last year. So I don't think he'll ever be just labeled as a fullback and F tight end. He is a spot. He's a wildcat quarterback. Is what he is. That's what he is. He's not a running back because it's a different kind of read that you have to have with a running back. And when he does the wildcat quarterback, he always has the extra blocker, so that it's a different animal. And he can catch passes, and we know the whole thing when it comes to Taysom. So, Chip, hope that answered your question. So, I think this has been that was a good question, but I think this has been a pretty productive discussion here, just because now, like I said, pieces are coming together. I still think more moves are coming. Rookie minicamp is coming this week, and I'm going to tell you, one of the undrafted guys that you liked is going to get cut. At a rookie minicamp, an undrafted free agent signs, comes to rookie minicamp, a rookie minicamp tryout guy outplays him, and they cut their undrafted rookie that they signed on draft day. Happens every year. Every single year, someone you think is going to make the team or have a good training camp or may have a chance will get cut out of rookie minicamp. So that's just the way it goes in the NFL. But that's the next big thing up on the agenda in terms of on the field. Thursday, NFL schedule release.
Yep,
it's a very big day for me. So because I line up my fall, my life in the fall. I can now start. Like I said, I like to plan and visualize. I can now put it all together.
Gonna eye up that bye week
on the calendar and see where that is going to be. All right, I think I'm done. Still, you got anything?
No, I'm going to take us home, though.
All right, send us on home.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. Find us on YouTube and wherever you listen to and now watch your podcast. For Sean Fazan, I'm Vasilios. This has been the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.